When it comes to public decisions, there are a few things you just don't hear people say.
I hope it takes place behind closed doors.
Can we make sure that no one affected by the issue is involved?
I feel best when evidence is incomprehensible.
On the contrary, many agree. Public decisions should be transparent, informed by those affected, and based on evidence that people can sufficiently understand. This brings us to public decisions in healthcare. Decisions like, what treatments are available? What equipment is there in hospitals? And how many nurses, doctors, and other specialists are in the workforce? When all's going well, we might not think much of these decisions. But in a health emergency, that can change. How do healthcare decisions get made? In fact, many healthcare decisions are informed by scientific models, built by researchers like health economists. This makes it hard to be fully transparent with healthcare decisions, since not everyone's familiar with scientific models or research. For all we know, this octopus could be a health economist. Ideally, we want healthcare decisions to be transparent, understandable, and informed by the people they affect. So we're creating videos to explain relevant concepts, like scientific modeling, social values, and health economics. Keep watching and get in touch. You've heard about models. But what about models? Scientists build them to learn about the world, explain, predict, and solve problems. From model skeletons and model cars to complex computer models of the climate, economy, or human health. Statistical models highlight patterns in data. Simulation models describe systems over time, with countless different structures and options for design. Despite their diversity, all of these have something in common. Scientific models are representations. We use them to think and reason about a target, a system, or phenomenon of interest. Models are a big part of science, but science is not all they relate to. Scientific models link to our social values, ideas about priorities, what's good and best in society, what to pursue, and what to avoid. Next, we explore the link between science and social values by examining 4 overlapping decisions in scientific computer modeling. What to model? How to model it? What's true or likely about a target? And who makes these decisions anyway? None of these decisions can be made with scientific knowledge alone. Keep watching and explore with us why scientific modeling needs social values. How many degrees will the Earth warm by 2050? What are the costs and benefits of a plant-rich diet? Have e-cigarettes raised or lowered healthcare costs? These are some of the questions we can explore with scientific modeling. In the big picture, the choice of what to model reflects our social values. Preserving the climate, protecting animals, and optimizing healthcare are priorities that people rank differently. Picking a model target means choosing what's most important to know. But what about choices when building a single model? In this context, what to model means what to include in the model. Take benefits of a plant-rich diet as an example. To model this, we have to choose how to define benefits. This could mean benefits for the planet, benefits for humans, benefits for animals, or some combination. Whatever we choose, we have to further define. Scientific models never include everything. One reason is data availability, the information or evidence to put in the model. Another is time and human resources. Understanding matters too. Models with too much in them can be hard to use, or even impossible to calculate with. How we make trade-offs when choosing what to model reflects our social values. What's most important to know? How fast we want to know it? how much we're willing to spend, and how accurate we want to be. So does deciding what to model reflect only social values? On the contrary, most modeling choices reflect the desire to be as accurate as possible. For example, it can be wrong to include one thing in a model if we don't include another. If a plant-rich diet is more common among the wealthy, we should include wealth in our model, so we don't confuse the effect of diet with something else. Decisions about what to model overlap with questions about how to model, and other modeling decisions. Watch our next videos for a better picture. Meet BAM. BAM wants to build a model. They know what they want to model, so next is how to model it. For BAM, the goal is to use people's characteristics to predict the frequency of headache. For this sort of model, it's necessary to have information, or data, that suggest one thing can help predict another. Lucky for BAM, 2 imaginary studies showed a link between people's characteristics and headache. BAM wants to use these data to build a model. However, the data aren't perfect. In both studies, the participants lived in cities, and no one was from rural areas. Each study used different job categories, so regrouping them would take some work. And only one of the studies used the latest method to diagnose headache. To know how to proceed, BAM needs to know the purpose and priorities for the model. This will draw on the same social values that it takes to choose a research question. This involves some trade-offs. First, using the accessible data means not directly representing rural people. BAM has to decide whether some data are better than no data, or if their model needs to wait for other evidence. Next, BAM could regroup the job data a few ways. One option is to group the physical jobs. Another is to group jobs with high stress or low wages. BAM might use existing evidence to decide this and focus on well-known predictors of headache. Or BAM could look into a new idea that's never been studied. Finally, BAM could drop one study and just use the other if they want the latest way to diagnose headache. But this choice means a loss of information. All of these trade-offs pertain to how to represent things in the model. Whatever BAM decides will reflect their social values. What's most important to know, how fast they want to know it, how much they're willing to spend, and how accurate they want to be. In our next video, we talk about modeling decisions that have to do with what's true or likely about a target, and discuss how these relate to other choices, like how to define things. What exactly is a platypus? This animal lays eggs like a reptile, but is warm-blooded like a mammal. And what about a light smoker? The term light smoking can mean no smoking in the last month, smoking 1 to 39 cigarettes a week, or smoking 10 to 20 cigarettes a day. A big part of science and modeling is defining concepts and creating categories. So how do we know when we've found the one that's true? Many philosophers think there are no perfectly right or wrong categories, definitions, or representations in science. Instead of being true or likely, we talk about these being useful, adequate, or fit for purpose. In some models, we might decide the platypus needs their own category. In others, it might be adequate to count them as a reptile, but not as a light smoker. Definitions and categories do reflect facts about the world. So what modeling decisions are directly about what's true or likely? Let's tackle these in 2 contexts. 1, during model development. 2, when the model is finished. During model development, we often review scientific evidence. For example, we might analyze data on how many Canadians are current or former smokers, and decide the true or likely number is between 40 and 53%. We might assess the link between smoking and a lung disease and decide it's true or likely that smoking increases the odds of developing the disease. Next, we might input these data to a model capable of making projections and decide it's true or likely that Canada will have 50 to 100,000 new cases of the lung disease in the next 5 years. To recap, model development involves evaluating evidence and deciding what's true or likely when choosing inputs for the model. When using a finished model, we reason about what's true or likely based on model results. All of this is generally true, but it's also a simplification. Sometimes, model inputs don't have a true or likely value, but rather one that's best for our purpose. And often, model results are a range of scenarios we describe with words like possible. Decisions about what's true or likely pose challenges, and they're subject to error. Most require specialized training and expertise in scientific methods and evidence evaluation. Often, there's uncertainty, and scientists may disagree on what exactly evidence says. Debate and criticism are essential parts of the process. Decisions in modeling can have consequences. Deciding it's true that a drug is safe, or likely we'll have a doctor shortage, affects human health and the economy. Social values play a role in identifying what decisions have serious consequences, what errors are most important to avoid, and how much evidence and agreement we want before we decide. If these decisions can be so serious, who makes them anyway? Watch our next video about social decisions in modeling. Question: what do scavenger hunts, escape rooms, and scientific modeling have in common? Answer: it helps to do them in a team. Scientific models are for complex problem solving, and they're complicated to build, especially computer models. For this reason, modeling is generally done by teams of scientists with complementary types of expertise. For example, modeling the link between healthcare costs and actual health tends to involve clinicians, economists, statisticians, health researchers, and increasingly, patients and citizens affected by healthcare. Philosophers say scientific inquiry is enhanced by working in teams. What's more, they say diversity in those teams is important. Having a mix of social positions, skills, and perspectives. Social diversity is beneficial because social experience makes us notice different problems and understand and prioritize different things. Cognitive diversity is good too, because scientists with different ways of thinking can collaborate and strategize from all angles. Diversity in teams is a matter of social justice and good science. Since models are built by teams of people, this means the process is full of social decisions. Who exactly is part of the team? How will they work together? What will they do to encourage criticism and debate? And how will they manage disagreement? Working in teams can have pitfalls. One or more people might wield too much power, inhibit others from talking, or coerce rather than convince. Overcoming this takes discussion. Who's capable of contributing what? Who's expert on which matters? And how will final decisions be made? These discussions draw on our ability to reason, along with our social values. In our next video, we circle back to health economists and discuss the decisions that take place in health economics modeling teams. If you've been watching our videos, you know that scientific models are representations that we build and use to think through problems. In health economics, we build models to study the links between health and healthcare costs and help us choose between different ways for spending our healthcare budget. For example, when a new treatment becomes available, One option is to spend our budget on it. Another option might be to stick with the old treatment we were already using. To make this decision, we need information. How well the old treatment works, how well the new treatment works, and how much each of them costs. But health economics problems quickly become complex. Many factors must be considered, like costs up front and costs down the road, differences among patients and clinicians, total budgets, multiple options, and things we should think of other than cost. To tackle these complex problems, health economists build computer models, which require many choices. First, we must choose what to model. This means picking a target, a medical condition, treatment, or aspect of the healthcare system. It also means picking which parts of the target, like what type of costs are important to consider. Next, we must choose how to model. If the goal is to compare the costs of two different treatments, we'll need cost data, information on cost that comes from a specific source. And if we're interested in a treatment's effect on health, we'll need to define what we mean by health. Decisions about how to model will overlap with decisions about what's true or likely. For example, it's possible some sources will overestimate or underestimate things. So we must decide what are the most accurate estimates. Once the model is complete, we must decide what the results suggest, like whether it's true, likely, or possible that a new treatment is good value for money. Health economists, like other scientists, are trained to handle challenges when interpreting results. But the team must decide what mistakes are most important to avoid and what to do next when information is uncertain. Finally, when so many decisions occur in a team, its makeup and process will matter. Social decisions and social values are a vital part of science and modeling. That brings us to the end of this video series. If you've made it to here and want to know more, please get in touch.